So it is the first day of trying to actually start working on touching the Mustang. I'm trying to get his tag off. So the first step to getting his tag off is obviously touching his nose, which we accomplished over the past couple days. We spent some time. I would approach him. When he stood and allowed me to touch his nose, I'd do so, and then I'd release. Right here, he kind of thought about leaving. Then he came back to me, which is where I gave him that release. On this day, it was a little bit chilly, but I was going into that sunshine because I don't get a lot of sunshine. So every time I released, I used it as an excuse to go over there. I don't have control of his feet at this point. I'm just working on desensitizing him to touch, which is why he's standing where he wants to stand, which is over by his friend. So I give him his release. I go in for an approach. He thinks about leaving, but then he looks at me. That's very nice. I give that little touch on his nose. Very good boy. And then I give him that release. We played this game for quite a few minutes, just pressuring and releasing, pressuring and releasing. Great big releases there. He seems to stay a lot more relaxed when I go further. Gives him a chance to dispel some of that tension. So then I'm starting to work my way towards his cheek, and when he allows me to do that, again, big release. So getting the tag off is a pretty significant occasion when training a Mustang. It's a symbol that they have gone from just a number to actually being a member of a family, having a name, having an identity, as more than just a number out of a herd of many 40,000 horses, or however many are in holding at this moment. I know that number is always changing. But when you get that tag off, it's really a symbol that they're kind of free. They're freed from that bondage of being unknown. They're given a chance to learn some new skills and have a chance to have some power over their own destiny by learning to control themselves, and they've got freedom from fear. That's what it really is the freedom from the fear that they were living in as they get more comfortable. So right here you can see he got a little uncomfortable and started to move away. So I get that one little touch. He kind of wanted to wipe it off. He wasn't super happy about that, but then he licked and chewed and he starts to walk back up to me. So you can see he lost some confidence, but then he kind of gained it back when I gave him that release. Here he gets another chance to think about it. I'm going for that cheek again, and then I'm going to release. Here we go again. We're going for the cheek here in a second. Other cheek. So right there he's a little cautious. He hesitates and freezes, but he hung with me. I released and came back again. Lots of repetitions. Right there he's a little more relaxed, but he's still definitely thinking about it. You can tell by the way he freezes and holds perfectly still. He tenses up his muscles. Here I'm bouncing back to the right side where he's a little more confident. Again, there's a bit of a freeze there, but that's okay. I give him a release. Here I'm starting to work towards actually touching that tag, and you can see him block me right there. He puts his nose on my arm, and he's telling me don't reach any further. So I just freeze and I hold there. When he kind of relaxes a little bit, I back away, give him a chance to think about that. I don't want to push him past his boundary because that's where you're going to get into trouble. He looks like he's a very quiet horse, and he is. However, he holds in his anxiety, he holds in his emotions. So I have to be very attentive to where his boundary is. Right there, I just barely brushed that tag, and that was too much for him, so I backed right off. But I was able to get close enough to do that. I'm going to let him think about that for a minute. So here I'm going back in, I let him think about that, and now I'm aiming for his cheek. Immediately he stops me and blocks me with his face, so I'm going to hold there with my hand on his face. I'm not going to back away when he blocks me. I back away when he starts to flex his head away. There I'm going in again, and that time he actually let me touch his cheek, which is really good. That's getting a lot closer to that tag. Now from this image you can really see his body condition pretty well. And as you can see, he's a bit on the scrawny side. He's going to have a lot of work to do on conditioning. He's got no top line, no rib, a lot of hip showing there. So he's going to take a long time to muscle up and get to his full potential. But that's one of the reasons why we do this contest, to get the horses really a lot more healthy. Now the other little guy we picked up is in a lot better shape physically. He's got a lot more weight on him for his size. And it's not totally abnormal. This horse had feed in front of him, but it's not abnormal for horses in a herd for some of them to be thinner than others, due to the fact that dominant horses will tend to chase off the less dominant horses, and therefore these more timid types or these quieter, less fightful horses will end up with less feed in their systems. So he's doing a lot better. His appetite's been improving since we started stalling him separately. He's really relaxed into his feeding routine and really started eating all the food, which is good because when he first came, he did not have a great appetite. So here I'm continuing to work towards his cheek. You can see I actually touch the tag a little bit, play with that, make a little bit of noise. And when he tolerates that, I give him a release. Now is the part where I'm going to start trying to find out how I'm going to work this knot, because these things are a little bit tricky sometimes, but I just keep working my way in there. I can't just sit here and focus on it. I'm focusing on him and how comfortable he is. I'm working in a sensitive area on him, which is his throat. So I play with it a little bit right there. He showed some tension, so I walk away. And you can tell he needed that release. He relaxed as soon as I walked away, but he's still thinking about leaving, thinking about moving, but he stays put. So I go in for another pressure, another go at that tag. Go for the cheek first, and then I touch that tag. I waited for him to kind of show where he was not going to let me go any further, and that's when I added that release in, because I don't want to push him past his comfort zone. Go for that cheek again, start working that tag again. Right there I start pulling on the string, trying to work that knot loose. He's kind of frozen right there, but he's tolerating it, so I stick around for a minute. There he starts to raise his head. I probably am going to release somewhere right along here. Good boy. So I pet him after that so that he's kind of learning. Even though he's uncomfortable, I can give him a little pet. It's not the end of the world. And then I'll release. A pet is a good thing. Right now, petting is pressure to him. Eventually, petting will be his release. Petting will be his reward. But right now, that's the thing that's like hard, is letting us pet him. So I'm pretty close to getting that tag off, but he decides to block me right there. So I keep my arm put, hang out for just a minute. And when he relaxes, I'm gonna release. Well, I should have released.